towards the end, he's obviously wasn't the Jason Peters that we remember, but he's still better than a lot of guys who are playing that position, even at 40 years old, even with a penalty every now and then. He's still a pretty talented player.
All right, everybody. We got Mike Gill in the house. Instead of Mike Gill Monday, we're going to have Mike Gill Tuesday because we were off yesterday. Good morning, Mike. How you been, man?
Doing good, Jeff. What's up, man?
Not much. Not upset over the Cowboys signing Jason Peters or anything. Like, Twitter they exploded yesterday, and we kind of knew this was coming for about a week.
Yeah, I mean, I would imagine that he's better than any in-house option that they had. And, he talked about it yesterday. It was kind of funny because in fact, on Birds 365, you hear what John McMullen has said over the years. It's kind of like the chain of command in the Eagles organization was like Jeffrey Lurie, number 1, Jason Peters, number 2. And it's just going to seem really weird having him there. But, he said, as soon as Jerry Jones called him, they started talking about Arkansas football and stuff like that. And it just kind of, but hey, look, towards the end, he's obviously wasn't the Jason Peters that we remember, but he's still better than a lot of guys who are playing that position, even at 40 years old, even with a penalty every now and then. He's still a pretty talented player. He's not the same Jason Peters, but he's probably an upgrade to whoever else the Cowboys were going to play at that position. Which
brings up my next question, Mike. Did Jerry Jones admit he failed at drafting offensive linemen the last 2 years?
Well, you have Tyron Smith there, so you're not really targeting that position so much. I mean, they brought in the Smith kid this year, and maybe he's just not ready. There was a lot of talk about how green he was and that he was not going to be ready. And to throw him in at left tackle, I just don't think they, look, to knock somebody. The Eagles happened to have a guy who was a first-round pick. We were talking about this on my show last Wednesday. Joe Valerio played in the league for 6-7 years, and we were talking about cutdown day. What's it like to get cut? What's it like when the Turk taps you on the shoulder and says, bring your playbook? Joe's been there, and he said, look, one of the areas that used to feel pretty secure was when you were a veteran offensive lineman, that those guys had a place in the league. They don't have a place in this league anymore. Teams can't afford them. They just can't afford them. So they have to groom younger offensive linemen to be the backup. You used to have a guy who was a 10-year veteran that was the backup left tackle and can fill in up and down the line. You don't have that anymore. So, I guess the luxury that the Eagles have, most teams don't, including Dallas, so they had to go outside the organization.
Yeah, it's weird, too, how it was Jason Peters, because you did have Eric Fisher available, but again, I don't know the health of Eric Fisher. I'm not sure what the deal is. He hasn't signed, but you're right. It just seemed like this was the only fit for Peters if he wanted to play.
Yeah, I mean, he was with the Bears last year. I mean, I think he started 15 games or played in 15 games.
It was actually not bad for the Bears last
year. Yeah, no, he had some knick-knack injuries. Same with the Eagles, where he had to keep coming off the field, coming and going, and he just hasn't been the same player that we remember. That's the problem, is you have a memory of a person playing at a certain level, and they're no longer that guy. Then all of a sudden your thought process changes on them. Well, believe me, he's still going to be better. Thank you. Sorry, I got my coffee. It's going to be better than, is he a top 15 left tackle in football now? No, but just think about, we are so spoiled with our offensive line in Philadelphia. Just think about teams like Minnesota, who have great skill players, but they haven't been able to be a playoff team because their offensive line is just so bad that their offense can't be consistent enough. The Giants are another team. The Giants have good skill players. Their line is just so bad that
it is better now, though. At least
it's getting better, yes. But I'm going back to when Eli Manning was just a shell of himself. Was Eli Manning a shell of himself as a player? Maybe not. It just, that line just did not allow him to compete at the same level that he could. Eli could possibly still be playing if he had a half decent offensive line. Their line was so bad. So you got to take that into account when you think about teams around the league. The rest of that Dallas offensive line, I mean, they have drafted pretty well. Zach Martin is, when he's healthy, he's a really good player. The center position's been a little bit of a problem for them. But look, the Eagles have a luxury that most teams just simply don't have. That's the moral of the story here.
Now, speaking of the Eagles, I guess I got to shift now because we talked about that luxury. Well, they're not going to have their – what do we want to call Andre Dillard? I can't think of a term for him right now, but he was kind of like that insurance policy, right?
He's the ultimate insurance policy at a premium position. Yeah. Most people are looking for a starting left tackle. They have a premium backup left tackle. Is he the first?
What do they do now that he's out 6 weeks?
It's a great question because Driscoll has essentially been, trained to play the right side and some right guard. Do they now cross-train him to the left side? LaRaven Clark, I think, is on the practice squad, if memory serves. I think.
They can bring him up, though.
What's that?
Yeah, they can bring LaRaven Clark up if they need to.
Right. So I would imagine in that 6-week window that Dillard's not available, either they cross-train Driscoll to play over there, or LaRaven Clark would kind of be the guy that would get that first crack in the event that Jordan Mailata went down. So, and that's happened. Mailata's missed some time the last couple of years with some injuries, including last year. So, it's definitely, you don't know what you got until it's gone. And people don't like Dillard because he was a first-round pick, but the guy's very serviceable. I'm not saying he's a Pro Bowler, but he's serviceable in the time that he has played. When you lose your starter and you have to go to a backup left tackle, look, the Eagles saw this. They lost Jason Peters, and they went to Big V, who, by the way, is not going to play on Sunday against the Eagles for Detroit. He's out, which is a big loss for them. It's a great luxury to have is a backup left tackle or a backup at any spot in the line that could step in and be a starter.
Now, I was previewing Cowboys Bucks before you came on because it is week 1. We actually got football this week, and there's going to be a major player on Tampa Bay that looks like he's going to play week 1. And I was told this 7 weeks ago. Don't be surprised if Chris Godwin's on the field week 1. How much of an impact does Godwin play in this game on Sunday?
Well, Godwin could play. He's just a super talent. He's a guy that, if he was healthy as a free agent, probably would have been at the top of the list of getting deals with all these receiver deals that ended up happening. Guys wanted to be traded, getting deals. I like Godwin a lot. How much of a difference does he make in this game? Big difference. I mean, look, Dallas, like him or not, their defense is still pretty good. I mean, they lost some pieces on the offensive side. They got some injuries. Obviously, they had to trade Cooper because they don't know how to manage their cap. But their defense is very good. It'll be fun seeing what they do. I mean, in that secondary. And look, Brady, this whole story, this is so interesting. This game, remember, was the Thursday night game last year that started the season off, and it was a great game. It was an exciting back and forth game. Dak Prescott entering year number 7 now for Dak Prescott. Think about that.
Crazy, isn't it?
Yeah, no, but I think Godwin is a difference maker for them. Look, they're with Tom Brady and that team, they're a playoff team, but they need him to be a Super Bowl team. Without him, no Gronk. You start to question. And look, you don't question Brady. He won with far less in New England, but he is 45. He's had a tumultuous couple of weeks here and a weird offseason, so they need him back out there.
Do you think he's all in, as Todd Bowles said?
Who, Brady?
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't think Brady does anything half-assed, man. Maybe his marriage. Maybe his marriage he does half-assed. But on the football field, no. I don't question whether he's all in or not. He's not the kind of guy that's – I mean, I know it sounds a little weird because he did say he retired, then he decided to come back. He wasn't all in on retirement. That's why he's back. Yeah. So once he said, I'm not all in on retirement, he ain't all half in on the field.
Yeah, you know what, Mike? You brought up a good point here. But this, it's like you said. This isn't the most challenging year of Brady's career. Not even close. But he's dealt with bad offensive lines before. I'm not saying the Bucs' offensive line is bad, but the interior of the offensive line He's replacing Jensen. He's replacing Marpet. Shaq Mason's Shaq Mason he's familiar with. He's good, but the Bucs are pretty much down to their third string center, their second string left guard. How big of a factor is that going to play against the Cowboys defensive line that's going to get pressure on him this week?
Yeah, I mean, you got what? Donovan Smith. I don't know what the heck they're doing at the other spot. You mentioned Shaq Mason. Tristan Wirfs is pretty good on the outside, but you get pressure up the middle on Brady. That's where your problems are, and that's where the problems on the Bucs offensive line is. It's up the middle. They're okay on the outside. It's up the middle where they've had their injuries and their problems. How much mobility and movement is Tom Brady going to have? Now, Dallas, no Randy Gregory to get that pressure up there. I blasted Dallas when they made that pick, and quite frankly, it didn't work out for him. He was a knucklehead up and down. He had, 1.5 good season. He just couldn't stay on the field. He finally got a good season when it was time to get paid, and then he left them. So that was a wasted pick for them. But you still have Parsons. And where are they going to shoot him from? Can they send him middle linebacker up the middle? Can they send him defensive end from the outside? Can they stand him up and play, try to loop him around? I think Parsons is a big factor in this game, but look for possibly try to get him pressuring up the middle in Brady's face.
Now, it seems like too late in Van Der Esch. He's had a good preseason. He's had a good camp, and I know he's been started out really well, faded the last couple of years, but the Cowboys really seem to like what Van Der Esch is providing at the mic and off ball. So is there a possibility Micah Parsons lines up at defensive end a lot so he can go get his sacks?
I don't think there's a spot. I think you just keep moving him around. But Van Der Esch, look, he was a guy that when that rookie year, he looked like he was like, oh my God, Dallas found this difference-making player. He looked like he was going to be a difference-making player. Hasn't worked out for him. He's had so many injury issues. But if they can keep him on the field, I still think you can put Parsons up, have a look with both those guys. But you can loop him around, stun him around from the outside. The one thing with Parsons is he doesn't have to play one spot. He can play multiple spots on the field. They still have DeMarcus Lawrence, who can edge rush. You stack those two guys on the same side, stunt those two guys together, although that's where Tampa Bay is their strongest, is on the outsides. But, you got Van Der Esch up the middle. You could still use both guys, I think, and send pressure with one or the other up the middle. Because for me, if I'm Dallas, I'm trying to go attack the middle of that Tampa Bay offensive line.
Ezekiel Elliott. We all know the deal with his contract. I think it's the last year the Cowboys take a significant cap hit with him, but is Jerry Jones and Mike McCarthy really going to be as arrogant as they are and play Zeke more than Tony Pollard just because he's getting paid?
That's a good question. I mean, they tried to use Pollard more last year, probably didn't use him enough. Now they have a full off season to kind of say, all right, let's start to make that transition where Pollard's more the guy, Zeke is the other guy. If you're an NFC East fan, you'd say you hope not, because Zeke's just not the same player that he was. Pollard's a more explosive runner. And look, in today's game, most teams are employing two guys. I mean, in some sense, there's very few. I mean, I'm sure everybody watching this has got a fantasy football draft already. Mine's tonight. So it's hard to find running backs who touch the ball all game long, right? So I think Zeke Elliott's touches will begin to go down. You'll start to see the switch over that Pollard. It'll at least, I would say, be more of a 50-50 proposition, depending on your opponent, too. Do you want to grind it out, run the clock? I don't think their offense is going to be as explosive this year with a couple missing pieces there. Your offensive line's not as good. You've lost Amari Cooper. We'll see. But I think you're going to see more of Pollard this year than you did last year.
Are you concerned about the wide receiver position right now with the Cowboys?
I mean, CeeDee Lamb's a player. Is he a number 1A? That remains to be seen. Gallup is, I don't know. Gallup would kind of be your version of what the Eagles had in Torrey Smith a couple of years ago. Maybe a little bit better, right? I mean, a little bit more polished. Smith was more, he was a veteran at that time. I think Gallup, who's a veteran, I think he's more of a one-trick pony than that. James Washington, I think he's hurt, right? So
is Gallup in the sense. I mean, looks like Gallup will be back, but
yeah,
overall, the depth right now, it's not great.
No, and I guess Tolbert is a guy they have some they like him a little bit. Yeah, no, I definitely think like I said, losing Cooper is hurt them, man. He was I criticized them a couple of years ago when they took CD Lamb, and Lamb's great. I'm not saying that Lamb's not great. I said you didn't need Lamb. The problem with taking Lamb, and their defense was so bad that the year they drafted Lamb, their defense was so bad that year. It was like you took a guy that you already, had a spot, and the problem became now you have Lamb, you have to pay him, so you had to decide that I can't keep Cooper because I paid Elliott. So you had you the way they managed their roster just didn't make sense to me at the time. Now, Lamb, I think, is better than Cooper. I think Lamb's ceiling better than what Cooper gave you. Even though Cooper was better than people. When he got traded from the Raiders to Dallas, people were kind of smirking like this guy hasn't done anything. He came here and played pretty well, including if you're an Eagles fan, he kicked their butts with Dallas.
Yeah, so, Eagles fans should be glad he's out of the division.
Right. So yeah, they're long story short is their receivers that they got some question marks there, but that's why you pay the quarterback. That's why Dak Prescott, he's got to elevate those guys. You pay your offensive line. You have a quarterback that's a franchise guy. It means you got to take lesser weapons. You can't afford them all. And when the quarterback is a franchise quarterback that gets paid like that, he's going to have some lesser guys to throw to, and he's got to elevate them. That'll be the big question for Dak in year 7. Can he elevate Michael Gallup to the next level? James Tolbert, make him a known name. James Washington, if he can get back on the field. Will we know who these guys are because of the quarterback?
Now, what are your overall thoughts on Dak Prescott? I've been saying for years, I think he's a top 10 quarterback, but a lot of people seem to, I don't want to say disagree, but I don't think they want to rank him that high.
I like Dak. I've never been a Dak hater. Just last year, for whatever reason, the second half of that year, he just didn't seem to be the same guy. Don't know what it was. I don't know if it was, I don't want to say, well, he didn't seem accurate. His arm just didn't seem to have that it factor. That's one of the things with Dak I think we don't give him credit for is he has the it factor. Is he a top 10 arm? Is he the most accurate passer? No. But he's got that it factor. He makes plays. He can keep things alive. He's a winner. He's a gamer. No, I've always been a Prescott fan in terms of you can win with him, I think. But can you win the Super Bowl with him? I'm beginning to think that is probably unlikely. They've always been look, the stretch he had before he got hurt with that ankle, if their defense was mediocre that year, they would have been a problem the way he was playing. He ends up getting hurt, and they turned into a disaster after that. And their defense got better that year as the year went on. If you remember, their defense did get better. But I think the way they were playing, if they had a mediocre defense that year, Prescott was playing at a level that they might have been scary in the playoffs. Other than that, I mean, I laugh every year. I said, my buddies, I got a couple of buddies who are Cowboy fans. I don't know how they found their way into this direction. They probably weren't raised right, but you get into a situation where they played San Francisco last year. I said, soon as that matchup, I said, they are not winning this game.
I said the same thing. I said on your show.
They are simply not tough enough to win a game where San Francisco is ready to fist fight you. They will run. Their defense is tough. That's simply not the game Dallas wants to play. They do not want to play that kind of. I said that San Francisco was the worst matchup for them.
Is it fair to say Dak's rookie year might have been their best chance to go to the Super Bowl?
That's a good question. Either that or last year. I mean, their team last year was loaded, man. I mean, for them not to win with that team last year, look, their defense exceeded expectations. No one knew that Parsons was going to be that guy. You had Diggs play at a tremendous level for most of the. I mean, people see the interceptions, the highlights. I mean, he's beatable. Diggs is a guy that you can go after, take shots down the field on, but he's also a playmaker. If you're going to go after him, he's going to make plays. Last year's team had a shot their rookie year, his rookie year, they were 13-3 that year. That was the he came out of nowhere that year too. I mean,
Aaron Rodgers made that throw to Jared Cook in the playoff game, but Dak threw a pick six in that game too.
Yeah, either that year or last year. Last year's team was really good, man. I mean, I said as soon as they lost, that was their shot. That was their shot last year, and I don't know. The NFC might be a little bit more open this year, though. So you might not need – it's like the Phillies in 08 win the World Series. Probably not their best team. The 11 team was the better team, but they didn't win. So maybe Dallas's roster isn't as talented, but the path might not be as difficult.
So do you think they're a playoff team this year?
Dallas, yeah, I do. I think the NFC East could actually get 3 teams. I think it's a long shot, but I think there are 3 potential playoff teams in the division because I like Washington. If Carson Wentz is mediocre, just mediocre, just can't be bad. He just can't be bad, Carson Wentz. If Carson Wentz is mediocre, that team can make the playoff. They've got enough talent around. Now, they got to stay healthy. They've already lost Chase Young, but I like their weapons on offense. Their defense was excellent 2 years ago. I don't know what happened last year, but they started to get better as the year went on. They just didn't have any quarterback play. You can't win in this league with Tyler Heineke. And for them to win, 7 games with the quarterback play they got a good coach. I'm not saying a great coach. Look, fans have this vision in their head that they're going to get greatness at every position on the field, and the coach has got to be – coaches make mistakes. If you have a good coach, that's a plus. And Ron Rivera is a good coach. Is he great? No. Is he exciting? No. But he's been to a Super Bowl. He shows he can lead a 53-man roster. Guys want to play for him. That's something that organization has not had. They've kept the same coach. This is his 3rd year there now, right? So You're starting to at least get some consistency at a position that they just haven't been able to find. I think Jay Gruden was there 3 years, but wasn't
longer than 3 years. I think he was there 5 years.
I was going to say, but he was there, but he just wasn't a guy. It seemed like that was a leader of men. That the players he didn't. We were talking about this with Joe Valerio on my show. Joe's a great listen. 5:00 on Wednesdays, man.
He comes on right before I do.
He tells great stories because, people are like, he was not really a journeyman. He played with the Chiefs for 5-6 years, but man, he had so many great experiences and stories. And he talked about, when he left Kansas City, which had Marty Schottenheimer, and how well run the organization was. And then he went to St. Louis, and the coach there was Rich Brooks.
That was
right
before Dick, right? Right before Dick went there?
In St. Louis, yes, because Vermeil ended up going there, and they had the greatest show on turf. He was there in 96. Rich Brooks was the coach, and he said the culture was just so different. Guys showed up late to practice and meetings, and they didn't get penalized for it. Showed up wearing whatever clothes they wanted to. Kansas City, you must be wearing these clothes. You got to have your team-issued gear. So much more structured. I think we take for granted sometimes behind the scenes how much a structure of an organization matters. And Washington, poor structure. Are they starting to get that structure after 3 years? And okay, if you're not conforming with Rivera's plan, you're out of here. So keep those things in mind. Like when an organization struggles or when an organization starts to turn around the corner, is it because they have better structure in the organization? It's a great story Joe tells about. He's like, I went to St. Louis, and it was the Wild West, man. Guys show up late for meetings. No one gets penalized, fined, nothing. You were in Kansas City, Marty Schottenheimer. If you weren't 5 minutes early, you were late.
Now,
look at the Giants, by the way. Look at the Giants since they lost, since their Super Bowl runs, the coaches, they haven't been able to find a culture setter there.
It looks like they're not, but I got to say this. Since you brought Ron Rivera, I'm going to kick the hornet's nest tomorrow. This is part of my preview here for, I have to do preseason head coach hot seat rankings. I put Ron Rivera on there. Not because of Ron Rivera, because his owner is a complete idiot, and I think if they have a 3rd straight losing season, he's crazy enough to give Rivera the boot. I mean, he fired Schottenheimer after an 8-8 season. So, I mean, I've seen crazier things, but could Ron Rivera actually be on the hot seat this year?
Yeah. Oh, listen, you're right, because you have an owner that's unstable there. And if they don't make the playoffs, I could say, hey, we had this guy that was in the Super Bowl. We gave him 3 shots at this, and we're getting rid of him. I as much as Snyder, that team is too much under the microscope with the league right now. So he might conform and try to follow path here and say, all right, we're going to go down this road with Rivera. Because Rivera has a lot of power in that organization. He makes a lot of decisions that you can tell that he is
it's very stable right now, at least on the football field.
Yeah, and look, they got I like the talent on that roster. You got Gibson, McLaurin, Dotson. They went out and got Curtis Samuel's a good slot guy. Logan Thomas is a talented guy. Their offensive line is okay. It's not great, but
better than most.
It's better than most, right? But they're calling cards on the defensive side of the ball. I mean, their defense, if they get Chase Young back and he plays, Sweat, Jonathan Allen, Davis, who they drafted, and they got criticized for, turned into a decent player. Fuller, they brought in. Their veterans, they got William Jackson's back there now. So their defense is pretty good, and it's like Philadelphia, man. It comes down to that quarterback position. How much if he could just be average. I think he just has, and that's not saying, hey, be average. It's just don't be 2020 Carson Wentz. Any other version of Carson Wentz, that team has a shot to make the playoffs.
You think Jacksonville could sneak up on them on Sunday?
Yeah, absolutely. I do. Why? Culture. They set a culture down there. Last year, their culture was bananas.
They didn't have a culture last year.
Bananas. Doug Peterson's won a Super Bowl. He knows how to set a culture. I mean, he came into a situation similar where Chip Kelly was there, and it was a poor culture in Philadelphia. And you bring in a guy who had to deal with that in 2016. They went 7-9 and kind of switched over the mindset and the way that
achieved that year. By the way, that Eagles team was supposed to be a 4 or 5 win team, and they won 7. That's when I knew Doug was going to be a pretty decent coach.
And early on in his career, they went 3-1 out of the gates that year, and then they kind of struggled along. And there were some games you're like, I don't know if this guy's got it, but it's a process. We look at things in this world in such a day-to-day fashion. Whatever you do on this Sunday, that's who you are. No, that's not the case. Even though football seasons are one Sunday a year, it is still the marathon of building a culture, building a program, building an organization. As much as fans look at week to week, we got to win this game on Sunday. Teams don't – you got to remember, organizations are everlasting. They just keep going. They're building something for years and years and years of success, not success on Sunday. Not every Sunday. Do they want to win every Sunday? Absolutely. But there's a big picture to an organization. And when you walk in to an organization's headquarters, you see the building on the good organization's walls. Their history lines their walls. Those are the organizations that don't look at every Sunday as the be-all, end-all. They have the big picture look. And I think that's where teams like Washington back in the day, they had the big picture look. Then they lost that because they got new ownership, right? And the new owner cared more about winning every Sunday than he did long term. And then you fall apart because you try so hard to win every single Sunday that it actually blurs your vision and crashes and burns your organization.
Finally, how does Mike Gill spend an NFL Sunday? Do you have Sunday ticket?
No.
You don't have Sunday ticket.
I don't watch Red Zone. I'm anti-Red Zone.
So you're anti-Red Zone.
Yeah.
I watch Red Zone when it's convenient.
No, I don't like the Red Zone. I like getting into a game. When I do my show, obviously I'm watching the Eagles. I have a Philadelphia audience, but I watch NFC East games. So I'll usually, so generally when the Eagles aren't on, you get Giants, Dallas, or Washington. So I like to sit and get into that game. I like to watch, and I'll pick series, and I'll say, all right, I want to watch their line play. I know that next week, if Philly's playing this team, I'll try to watch that team play if they're on my TV. Now, that's not always the case, but so you would say, well, so then why don't you get a Sunday ticket? Well, I don't have a dish, so that's number one. Although, where is the Sunday ticket now?
So Sunday ticket, you can actually. Do you have a Roku or anything?
I do. I have an Xbox 360. I think it's not mine.
I think you can get it on there because I had Sunday ticket on my Roku, but I think this is the last year that it's with the DirecTV deal. I think next year it's you're going to go to Apple. I don't think they saw. You're the announcer guru.
No, I know they're moving. I just didn't know if it was. I think it's next year that they're going to somewhere else. Amazon, maybe they could be going to Amazon.
Amazon's a bidder. By the way,
but I don't have it, so I know it's on the dish, right, or DirecTV.
Yeah, it is on there. Yes.
Yeah, I don't have Sunday ticket. I don't like the red zone. I like watching a game. I like getting into a game and watching it and just kind of taking notes and doing that. So my Sunday, like I'm outside right now doing this segment here. I'm out on my porch. Behind me over there is my TV.
Oh, I love it.
And I have a heater. So for Sunday night, I'll turn the heater on and I'll stay out here till probably about early December. Even in December, I'll come out here and watch games. The porch is screened in. So that's my Sunday, man. I got my notepad. I'm not quite Ray Didinger, but I do have a notepad. A lot of times I'll tweet. And then on Monday, when I do my show, I'll go back and read through my tweets to remember stuff that I saw.
That's what I tell people. Everybody goes, why do you tweet so much? I'm like, it's honestly, it's a notebook.
I use it sometimes as a notebook. I actually have a draft that I keep in my email that I write. Like I have my announcer schedule podcast that we're actually recording today. And there'll be a handful of games that I'll pick out and listen to the announcers. I did West Virginia Pitt on Thursday night. That was a sad game for me.
Yeah.
But so I was kind of critiquing the announcers, and I'll write my notes down in the draft of the thing for things that I want to bring up on the podcast. Same with my show for games. I will have a draft in my email, and I'll throw them in there and bring up points. Like, for instance, when I set up my show, I have a draft that has every time slot. So if I have a question that I want to ask Jeff Kerr at 5:30, I will take it and throw it in the draft and be like, okay, bring that point up at 5:30 tonight.
Mike, once again, I appreciate you coming on. I'm going to have you on next Monday. We're going to recap all the crazy week one game. I'm sure you'll be watching the Cowboys on that porch, and we'll be complaining about that Monday morning and probably complain about the Eagles, even though they should beat Detroit and all that. But once again, you can catch Mike Gill on 97.3 ESPN, the Sports Bash, every day. Right, Mike?
Monday through Friday, 2 to 5 and 2 to 6. Actually, on Friday, I see Ocean behind you. I will be at the Ocean Sportsbook this Friday, but normally I'm there on Monday. So if anybody's coming down the shore on Friday, 2 to 6, I'll be at the Ocean Gallery Bar Booking Games.
Mike, I got to come visit Ocean one of these days. So maybe one day during the year, I'll just text and be like, guess what? Guess where I'm going to
Hey, next Monday, we'll be there, and the Eagles have a Monday night game.
I could do that before I cover the game. So, yeah, I might have to consider that. Once again, thanks for coming on, Mike.
No problem. See you guys.